What is going on, YouTube? Espresso Shucko here, and today we are giving Dragonite the upper hand, quite literally, because we have upper hand on Riolu. So, I saw this pop off a little bit after the Indigo Disc came out, but I never tried it. But the idea here is you have an inner focus Pokemon that has extreme speed and Tera normal. Go for extreme speed while holding a weakness policy, and then you go for upper hand with a weak Pokemon, say like Riolu, Trico. I even seen Raichu, and originally I was trying to build around Raichu. But the idea here is upper hand only works when you know for sure the target is going for a priority move. Well, because it's a fighting type attack and we're going Tera normal extreme speed, we've got the requirements met for upper hand to hit, and inner focus prevents flinching, which means we're still going to connect with our +2 now extreme speed into something, and we're going to just do as much damage with that as possible. As far as our attacking moves on Dragonite go, we have Dragon Claw for some neutral coverage, we have Ice Spinner to destroy terrains, specifically grassy or psychic terrain, then we don't have to worry about priority getting blocked if we run into an Indeedee, and if we have a Rillaboom on the field, well, that's just insult to injury, because not only are we hitting it for super effective damage, but should it somehow survive, we're destroying its grassy terrain, which means no more Grassy Glides having priority. So we have that, and finally we have Extreme Speed as our last means of dealing damage. So that's Dragonite in a nutshell. We have Entei here with Sacred Fire, Extreme Speed, Stomping Tantrum, and Trailblaze. We have the inner focus ability on that as well, because if you're running an Entei, you better run inner focus, because you don't want to take that Intimidate drop as well, nor do you want to take a flinch. We have Sacred Fire here to burn a lot of things while doing heavy damage, especially if we get boosted up with a coaching into our attack and defense boost. We have the extreme speed to pick things off. We have Stomping Tantrum here to run in and deal with any electric types that we run into, or steel types for that matter, that might be neutral to the Sacred Fire, or if we run into say in our Chaladon, we have that Stomping Tantrum for some super effective damage. We have Trailblaze here to boost Entei's speed. This is going to help give Entei a little bit of a more positive matchup against water types and rock types as well. So we'll get a little bit of speed, and then that way if we don't go for the extreme speed, well, at least we know we have a little extra speed in our back pocket. And we have Tera Ground here in case we run into a Raging Bolt, and then we don't have to worry about, say, Thunderclap nailing us and just potentially picking off a weakened Entei that isn't going for extreme speed. And on top of that, it also gives Stomping Tantrum a little bit of stab, so, you know, that's nice too. We have Ogerpon here, who also benefits from getting a coaching boost, so the Ivy Cudgels and Horn Leeches are going to be doing way more damage. We have Follow Me to redirect attacks away from the Pokemon on our field. Maybe Riolu goes down, because Riolu is extremely glassy. If Riolu goes down and we have our weakened Dragonite from the upper hand on the field, well, we have the Follow Me to keep Dragonite safe while Dragonite just goes for raw damage. And then we have Spiky Shield here to protect Ogerpon. We have Fluttermane here for some special attack damage with Moonblast and Tera Fairy. We have Shadow Ball on it as well. We also have Icy Wind as a little bit of speed control, which is going to be incredibly handy, especially since we have the Focus Sash on Fluttermane. If we run into the mirror matchup against an opposing Fluttermane, not the worst thing to have a Focus Sash on it, because then we can potentially break a potential Focus Sash on our opponent, especially if they get greedy and go for Shadow Ball, and then that way we break the Focus Sash, and then we can Shadow Ball back. So that is relatively nice. And then finally we have Iron Jugulis with a booster energy as a main means of speed control. Because this thing is a dark type, we don't have to worry about Prankster status moves like, say, Thunder Wave or Scary Face slowing down Iron Jugulis. We also don't have to worry about Prankster taunts, which is going to be very nice. Once we have our booster energy off, we can go for a Tailwind, we can go for Snarls to just keep special attackers at bay as well, and then we have some Air Slash for some just generic damage, which is going to be relatively nice at the end of the day. Anyway, so that's the team in a nutshell. Let's jump on into some battles. Alright, my opponent here has Ursaluna, Blood Moon, Fluttermane, Ogerpon, Incineroar, Farigiraf, and Chi-Yu. Now, the Farigiraf means probably not taking any extreme speeds anytime soon, but I can always go for coaching. I can always go for coaching with the Dragonite or the Entei here, get them up to +1, which neither one of them mind that Incineroar there because they are immune to it. So I think what we'll do is we'll go Riolu and Dragonite, and then that way on the off chance that my Weakness Policy gets procced, not the end of the world. We have Ice Spinner here to do some neutral damage to the Ogerpon and the Farigiraf. It can hit the Ursaluna for super effective damage, which wouldn't be the worst thing imaginable. We do have a little bit of speed control with Flutter Mane and the Icy Wind, so I don't mind that. But I could always bring the Iron Jugulis and have the Tailwind there. So I think what we'll do here is we'll bring Flutter Mane and... I think Ogerpon's a fine not substitute, but I think Ogerpon's a fine choice in the back. And then that way, too, we can always play to a late game Ivy Cudgel and a special defense boost from the Embody aspect, depending on what my opponent has on the field at the time, because the Flutter Mane, Farigiraf, and Ursaluna are all heavy-hitting special attackers. So Chi-Yu and Farigiraf are going to be the first two Pokemon out. So we could go for the coaching into Dragonite and then try to go for the Dragon Claw just right into the Chi-Yu. So I don't mind that, and we can go for that. We can go for that coaching there. We get that +1 into our attack and defense. My opponent's going to immediately Terrastallize. What is it going to be? It's going to be the Chi-Yu. It's going to go into Tera Fire. Not the worst thing for Dragonite to keep its dragon typing here, because we will resist a fire type attack. There's the helping hand, so whatever Chi-Yu wants, it's gonna try to murder. I just really hope this isn't a Dark Pulse. I hope this is something that Dragonite can resist. So it's going to be a Heat Wave. Alright, so helping hand, Tera boosted, fire, Heat Wave. It's not enough to knock out Dragonite, fortunately, so we should be able to clap back here with our Dragon Claw. There's no burn on Dragonite, that's great. And we just one-shot the Chi-Yu in retaliation, and there goes my opponent's Tera. So that's really nice here, and we can always go for the Farigiraf next. Definitely not something I am disappointed to see, and plus we see the Flutter Mane coming out here. I have a Focus Sash on my Flutter Mane, so I could go for a Shadow Ball into theirs, and then that way we can try to survive. So I think what I'm going to do here is, I think I'm going to Icy Wind, actually. I think I'm going to Icy Wind, see if I can potentially break a Focus Sash on their Flutter Mane. If they go for the Helping Hand again, great. So Dragonite's going to protect this one turn here. If we get the Icy Wind off into the Flutter Mane and break a Sash, great. I don't think Farigiraf should be able to knock me out, but we'll see. So there's our speed drop that we want to see into the Flutter Mane, and now Dragonite is going to be a little bit faster. There's an Expanding Force. Without the Psychic Terrain, it's not enough. So now we can go for a Dragon Claw into the Farigiraf, and we can go for a Shadow Ball into their Flutter Mane. So they're going to protect Flutter Mane. That's perfectly fine here. We have a +1 Dragonite aiming for their Farigiraf, so not the worst thing imaginable at my disposal. And plus, we always have the Ogerpon that we can go for the Tera Water. Now, Farigiraf is going to hold on, so that is something that we do have to be a little bit careful of. But it's not the worst thing here. And there is the Trick Room. Alright, so Trick Room is going to be a little bit of a problem for a Dragonite here, but we can always Ice Spinner their Flutter Mane, and we can always go for a Moonblast into the Farigiraf. So Farigiraf's going to go for the Helping Hand. Is my speed drop going to be enough to make Flutter Mane outspeed? Oh, no, it's not. No, it is not. So there's my Ice Spinner. We KO the Flutter Mane, and now we should be able to just nail this Farigiraf with a Moonblast. Not still enough to knock it out, but I'm very happy about this current endgame, because now we have the Ogerpon and the Farigiraf. We are currently on our third turn of Trick Room. I think I'm just going to stall this out for a turn with the Protect, and we'll go from there. In theory, depending on how much speed they have on their Ogerpon, my Dragonite should be able to underspeed it. So I'm hoping that I should just be able to knock out their Farigiraf. So 3 different protects this turn. So what's Farigiraf going to do? It's going to go for the Razzle Dazzle with the Dazzling Gleam. Now, unfortunately, Dragonite might not be able to live that. So I might actually need to consider using my Tera on Dragonite just to be able to try to live the Dazzling Gleam. Now, it was a Citrus Berry on it earlier, so we shouldn't have to worry about the any extra damage modifiers. So I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw into the Farigiraf, and I'm just going to go for the Moonblast. I don't think Fluttermane survives this turn, but we'll see for sure. Riolu did what it needed to do. It got the 1 coaching off into Dragonite. Dragonite is no longer going to resist the grass and the water type attacks from Ogerpon, but if Dragonite is able to live the Dazzling Gleam here, that'll be worth it. So we do live, and even Fluttermane lives, so now we can just Extreme Speed into the Ogerpon, and we should be in a relatively good position. Now, the Ivy Cudgel is going to come out. They're going to bonk my Fluttermane. Perfectly fine. We have my Ogerpon in the back that we can always go for the Hornleech into. So, not the worst thing imaginable, and I don't mind stalling out this turn a Trick Room, and then we have the Extreme Speed at our disposal. So we're going to go for the Protect here, and we're going to go for the Spiky Shield. And maybe they just try to attack one of my 2 Pokemon. I'm perfectly okay with that. If they just go Spiky Shield themselves, great. So Ogerpon moved before mine, which makes me think it's got less speed than my own. So I might actually be able to get the jump on it with a Hornleech. So let's see here. We're going to go for the Extreme Speed, and we're going to go for the Hornleech. And that should be some major damage into the Ogerpon at the +1 attack. So here we go. Tera Normal, Extreme Speed. Bam! And there's my Hornleech to follow up and secure the win. That worked out relatively nice. I'm very happy with how the turn order went on that previous one, where their Spiky Shield went before mine. Good to know that Dragonite wasn't able to secure the knockout at the +1, but good to know that my Ogerpon was faster, so I'm very happy with how that worked. Awesome. Alright, my opponent here has Incineroar, Chien-Pao, Fluttermane, Goldengo, Ogerpon, and Zapdos. So the Chien-Pao could be really nice for Dragonite, actually, because Sword of Ruin will lower the defense of everything. Now, this will affect Dragonite, but not the worst thing to have there. Entei doesn't look too bad either, because we have the Sacred Fire to threaten the Goldengo and the Chien-Pao. So maybe what we'll do here is we'll go... yeah, maybe we'll go for the Dragonite and the Riolu. Bring Entei in the back, and then maybe we bring Ogerpon or Jugulis. Yeah, Ogerpon looks really nice here too. Yeah, I do really like that, being able to potentially burn the Ogerpon, and I don't mind my own Ogerpon being able to go for some major damage. Yeah, I think we'll bring Ogerpon. I don't think we need Jugulis here. Now, if the Zapdos is a bulky Tailwind set, that could be problematic, but we'll see how this works out in the end. So I hope they bring the Chien-Pao, but I kind of hope they don't. So, not the worst thing imaginable to have the weakness policy there ready to go, but I'd rather... Okay, they do bring the Chien-Pao. Now, Dragonite is not affected by the... Dragon is not affected by the Fake Out or the Intimidate, and Riolu actually has a Covert Cloak. So we don't have to worry about Fake Out there either. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get rid of the Incineroar with the Extreme Speed. And we're going to upper hand my Dragonite. We're going to take advantage of the fact that they gave me an attack drop. So depending on how much damage this does, this can be really good. And plus, Entei doesn't mind the Chien-Pao in the back. Or rather, my Entei in the back doesn't mind the Chien-Pao right here. So we should be alright. Depending on how much this +2 extreme speed does, this should be really good. Now, that is a huge chunk of damage that I do have to be weary of because of the, you know, the upper hand, but the +2 attack might be worth it. Now, if Chen Pao just knocks out Dragonite, that's a problem, but we're going to nail this Incineroar. Booyah! Alright, so that's a clean one-shot right there. Thank you, Riolu. Now, so long as Chen Pao just doesn't knock out Dragonite, we should be dandy. Leaves me with 15 HP. Not the best, but like I said, I have Entei in the back, so I could always just go coaching Extreme Speed into the next Pokemon to take Incineroar's place. So, no I can't, because that is a Booster Energy Flutter main. Alright, so I'm going to Extreme Speed into the Chen Pao. I'm going to see if I can try to force a Tera Ghost. And if they don't go Tera Ghost and they just want to go Protect, great. I'm going to go for Feint, and I'm going to try to break a Focus Sash on this Chen Pao. If Dragonite goes down here. But we're going to break the Sash, and now we're going to knock that thing out right there. And a Dazzling Gleam should be enough to clear my side of the board, but we got rid of both Chen Pao and Incineroar, so that's one really good supportive backbone for the team that's gone. And we got rid of the Chen Pao, which has the potential to threaten a huge amount of damage into my team. So we do lose Riolu and Dragonite together, but they took out the first half of my opponent's team, so this should be a pretty good endgame, all things considered. We did see a speed boost off the Flutter main, so a Sacred Fire into that thing might not be the worst thing imaginable. And Golden Go is the other Pokemon, so I could go for the Sacred Fire into the Golden Go, and then that way I can just do some major damage that way. Now, the nice thing here is I do resist Make It Rain, so I think I go Ivy Cudgel into you, and I think I go Sacred Fire into you. Now, they do still have their Tera, so this could be a little bit problematic, but in theory, we should be able to do some major damage to that Flutter main, especially since we did see the Booster Energy, so we know there's no Focus Sash. So here comes the Tera. What is it going to be? Is it going to be Tera Ghost, or is it going to be Tera Steel? It is Tera Dark. Okay, so, alright. They're at least losing their fire weakness. I can respect that. So I'm thinking that might have been special attack, because that Flutter main did not go before my Ogerpon. That's also really good to know. Oh, they have Thunderbolt. Okay. Not ideal. But Entei is going to nail that Golden Go for some good damage. We pick up a burn. Great. So I can Extreme Speed the Golden Go, and we know we're faster than the Flutter main, so I think that's it. Now they go for Protect, then they go for Protect. I'm curious to the Tera Dark on the Golden Go, because Good as Gold protects it from status moves, so it shouldn't have to worry about Prankster. Maybe they have Dark Pulse? That could be it. They could just have Dark Pulse on the Golden Go. So we're gonna pick up the Golden Go here. Does Golden Go even get Dark Pulse? I don't know. But anyways, Golden Go is gone. Entei picks it up with the Extreme Speed, so now we can go for the Ivy Cudgel, and Stomping Tantrum at this range should be enough to finish off the Flutter main, so we don't have to worry about potentially missing a Sacred Fire. So we're going to go for our Ivy Cudgel, and you know what? Because it's funny, let's go for the Trailblaze. Let's go for the Trailblaze. Ivy Cudgel should do the job there, and yeah, all right. So my opponent forfeits the battle there. That is really nice. Dragonite just tore through the Incineroar, and the Feint into the Chen Pao was just really nice. So that broke a potential Focus Sash, and then Dragonite was just able to finish it off. So I'm very happy with how that played out. Good game to my opponent. Alright, my opponent here has Galarian Moltres, Sableye, Comfey, Archaludon, Glastrier, and Ogerpon. Now, Sableye could be a little bit of a problem for anything because of Quash, so that might be a little difficult to get around, but I don't dislike this. The Flutter Mane might not be too bad for trying to get rid of Sableye. If they lead Moltres and Comfey, I am going to have to try to do some major damage to that Moltres right out of the gate. So, maybe we go Dragonite and Riolu. Though Entei might not be bad either, so I think we're going to go Entei Riolu. We can always go for the coaching, and plus having the pressure to burn my opponents is going to be really nice. Now, I do need to be very careful about Glastrier because Glastrier has bulk for days, so we'll have to be very careful there. Trying to get around the Archaludon might be a little bit problematic for Flutter Mane if that thing's got an Assault Vest, but I think Ogerpon and Dragonite are going to come in the back. Yeah, so if Riolu can live turn 1 and give Entei a boost with Sacred Fire, or rather coaching to boost up Sacred Fire, that would be phenomenal. So we'll try this and see where we get. So it's going to be Sableye and Moltres instead. So I think I'm going to go coaching into Entei, and I'm going to target the Sableye immediately. So I want to get this +1 into my Entei to get the attack up, and then that way, if we can get rid of Sableye, no Quash situations. We don't have to worry about potentially Encore. I think Sableye does get Encore. They do go Protect on Moltres. That's great. I do have the Feint on Riolu to do a little bit of damage into it and remove the Protect. So if I can get rid of the Sableye, great. They go for Taunt into Riolu. Riolu did get the coaching off into Entei. This is going to be major damage. I don't see a Focus Sash. That's good. That is very, very good. And because Moltres went for Protect this turn, Entei can attack it with the Sacred Fire if we want. And if we really want to, we can go for Trailblaze and get some speed. There's the Ogerpon coming in here. I'm going for the Sacred Fire, and because they did go for the taunt, I'm just going to switch out Riolu. Now, an Ivy Cudgel into my Entei could be very, very bad, but I would love to get some damage off into the Galarian Moltres. So we gave it its Berserk boost. That's a little bit of a problem, but we did pick up a burn. So this thing is now at +1 special attack, and it's got a Citrus Berry. The one good thing, though, is my Entei does have an Assault Vest. So there's a Sword Stance coming out on their Ogerpon. That's yucky. And there is a a Nasty Plot coming off the Moltres. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Sacred Fire into the Moltres. And no, I'm going to Sacred Fire into the Ogerpon. And I'm going to Horn Leech into it too. They might just double into my Ogerpon. The keyword is might. We're going to see the Terastallization come out here. It's going to go into the Ogerpon, so they're now at +2 attack, which is terrifying. But if they go Horn Leech into mine, that's great. And I get this burn, even better. Because Sacred Fire does have a 50-50% shot. And plus, that's major damage off my Ogerpon. And also good to know that both Entei and Ogerpon are faster. We pick up the KO right there. That's wonderful. Yes, that is extremely wonderful. Now, here comes the Fiery Wrath into both Entei and Ogerpon. That's a lot of damage, but they're going to take some chip from the burn. And I do have my Extreme Speed, so depending on what comes in here. If it's Comfey or not, it's our Chaladon. All right. I think it's time I try to get rid of that. You know what? I'm going to go Stomping Tantrum into the Archaludon just to do some big damage, and I'm going to go for the Ivy Cudgel because of that. I was hoping it wasn't going to go for Protect, but this is why I didn't double into it. This is why I'm going for the Archaludon, and plus, if they have Stamina on Archaludon, they're going to get a defense boost, but we should do some major damage to it right out of the gate. I have Terra Ground, so I'm not too concerned. Now, Entei... Ooh, Entei held on. Thank you, Assault Vest. Alright, so I'm going to Ivy Cudgel the Moltres, and I'm going to leave Dragonite in the back. Well, obviously I have to leave Dragonite in the back, but I'm going to Sacred Fire into the Archaludon, and I'm going to Ivy Cudgel into the Moltres. And my opponent forfeits. So that worked out really nice. Despite that Moltres getting up to +3 special attack, Entei just took that for days, so I'm very happy with how Entei just carried on with the +1 attack and defense boost, and plus we didn't even need to go for the Dragonite, so I'm very happy with that. But anyways, I rambled on enough for this. Hey, thank you guys so much for checking out this Dragonite and Riolu team in action. I am extremely happy with how this team played out because we just tore through 3 teams back-to-back with Dragonite and Riolu, or technically I guess Entei and Riolu for the 3rd game, but in game 1 here we ended up going up against a Farigiraf, which is the natural enemy of anything trying to use priority, and despite it having the field locked down and having its Armor Tail shut down the priority, we were able to muscle our way through. We ended up tanking a hit with Dragonite by keeping our Dragon-type resistance to fire, and despite the Chi-Yu having its Beads of Ruin ability active and a Helping Hand boost from Farigiraf and its Tera Fire, it was unable to knock out Dragonite with 1 hit. And fortunately, we also did not get burned. Riolu pulled off the coaching for Dragonite, and Dragonite was able to retaliate and knock out the Chi-Yu with a Dragon Claw. And thus, because we lost Chi-Yu and Riolu at the same time, both my opponent and myself brought in our own Flutter Mains. We protected with Dragonite on turn 2, and my Flutter Main went for the Icy Wind, which could have had the potential to backfire on me because my opponent on the following turn ended up going for Trick Room with their Farigiraf. Fortunately, we were able to keep Dragonite and Flutter Main around on turn 2, but we were now having a Flutter Main showdown with my Flutter Main now technically being faster than theirs outside of Trick Room, so their Flutter Main was actually going to have the advantage over mine, but the Icy Wind drop into Flutter Main's speed was not enough to make it faster than my Dragonite in Trick Room, so we were able to KO it with an Ice Spinner. And then once we got the Farigiraf off the field as well, we ended up having an Ogerpon stare down my Ogerpon because we then had 2 Ogerpons to deal with each other. And fortunately, once the Trick Room ended, we were able to nail that Ogerpon with the extreme speed off a Dragonite, and my Ogerpon was faster, so it was able to finish the job off with a Hornleech. And then in game 2, we ended up running up against Dragonite's best friend, Chien-Pao, on the opposite side of the field, and Dragonite didn't take too kindly to seeing its former partner in crime staring it down. We were able to tear through both the Incineroar and the Chien-Pao in back-to-back turns. We pulled off the upper hand strategy with Riolu in turn 1, and despite Chien-Pao trying to knock out Dragonite, Dragonite held on with about 15 HP. We one-shot the Incineroar with a +2 Tera normal boosted extreme speed, and then Dragonite and Riolu together were able to knock out the Chien-Pao. If they had gone for Protect, Feint would have overridden the Protect and therefore allowed Dragonite to get the extreme speed off, but thankfully Riolu's Feint was enough to break a Focus Sash for Dragonite to just finish off the Chien-Pao. And I can only imagine if maybe they had gone for the Sucker Punch instead, and maybe they were thinking that I was going to try to protect Dragonite and maybe sacrifice Riolu or go for a coaching, but luckily we were able to just knock out the Chen Pao, which then left us with an end game of my Entei and Ogerpon staring down their Fluttermane and their Golden Go after Fluttermane finished off Dragonite and one-shot Riolu with a Dazzling Gleam. And the nice thing here was Entei was able to burn the Golden Go, and the Golden Go went for Tera Dark, so we were then able to hit it with an extreme speed, and Ogerpon was fortunately fast enough to outspeed their Fluttermane. It was a special attack boosting Photosynthesis, so the nice thing here was Ogerpon didn't have to worry about speed games with the Fluttermane. In Game 3, we ran Entei and Riolu into Galarian Moltres and Sableye, and we got rid of that gremlin as fast as possible. We got the coaching off into Entei with the +1 attack and defense boost. Entei was easily able to one-shot the Sableye because Sableye is not exactly the most durable, but the Sableye did taunt my Riolu, effectively locking it out of going for another coaching or protect. So we did sub out the Riolu the next turn into our Ogerpon, and then we had an Ogerpon showdown because my opponent decided to bring their Ogerpon in to replace their Sableye. Unfortunately, we weren't able to one-shot the Moltres with the +1 Sacred Fire, and we ended up giving it a Berserk boost, increasing its special attack one stage, and they also went for a Nasty Plot, putting it to +3 special attack, and the Ogerpon they brought in to replace their Sableye had also gone for Swords Dance, which was just terrifying. But luckily, my own Ogerpon was faster than theirs, so we dealt it a critical blow with that Horn Leech when it went for its Tera Water, thus bringing it down to about a quarter of its HP, and somehow Entei was actually faster than their Ogerpon, allowing it to finish off the Ogerpon with a Sacred Fire, which was just wonderful. That brought us down to an endgame of Galarian Moltres and Archaladon, and the fortunate thing too was we did see the +3 Fiery Wrath fail to pick up the KO into both my Entei and Ogerpon, which then meant that we were in a very good position because we still had Dragonite in the back, and we now had a healthy Riolu with coaching ready to go at any point, but we didn't end up needing it. We tanked a Draco Meteor off of the Archaladon, and we also brought the Archaladon down to about half its health with a Stomping Tantrum, and the Ogerpon was just ready to hit the Moltres with an Ivy Cudgel, and my opponent just ended up forfeiting the match at the end. They saw the writing on the wall, especially with their Archaladon now at -2 special attack and only +1 defense, which meant a Body Press probably wasn't going to be doing the most effective amount of damage to my team, especially since my Dragonite didn't have to go for the Terra Normal necessarily to deal with it. Anyways, that's enough recounting of the battles. I hope you guys enjoyed the team. If you did, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see some information as well, I'm going to have a link to the Pokepaste for the team down in the description. Anyways, guys, I will see you next time.